So in last lecture, we have discussed about the object-oriented OOP concept, in which we have seen, like in mainly in OOP, there is a classes and object. So we have discussed like an object has two characteristics. One is attributes, and the second is a behavior. So here we create the object, we pass these instances, uh, 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 create an object for the respective classes. The same object you can say the instance. Like here, for here the example is given like parrot is an object, and name, age, color are the attributes, and the singing, dancing are the behavior. So what we have discussed in the last lecture, for example, you are creating one class. For example, here is the class. This class is for a bird. The class name is bird here. Okay, the class name is bird. So as we know, the birds is there. So birds having a different attributes, right? Like the attributes like their color is there, color as well as is a size, right? Its behavior. So the different types of attributes you will find for the bird. And for the bird, we can create the object. Like here, the parrot is an object. So now I am creating a parrot is one object. Parrot is one object. And the another object that I am creating, that is, for example, sparrow. The third object that I am creating here, that is a peacock. So similarly, this is a peacock. So here, पण आता लेक्चर चालू आहे. लेक्चरच होऊ शकत नाही मला. हेलो, मे बी स्विच ऑफ हो सकता है कंप्यूटर इन बिटवीन, क्योंकि इलेक्ट्रिक का काम कर रहे हैं कॉलेज के अंदर. ठीक है, हम देखते हैं. मैं देखता हूँ कुछ हो सकता है तो इन बिटवीन, लेकिन स्विच ऑफ हो सकता है. ठीक है. So as what we are discussing, like the class is words and different attributes are there. Like for example, a name, age, color, right? There's a different attributes are there. So obviously for the parrot, for example, the color is different. Again, for the sparrow, the color is different. And for the peacock, the color is different, right? But here actually I'm defining these attributes in the class. But for the parrot, all the values are different. For the sparrow, all the values are different. As well as for the peacock, all the values are different, right? Like the same example we have seen in the last lecture, like a mobile phone. You have created a copy, one digital copy, and the same you are using in different mobile phone. Similarly, here is a different object is there, like parrot, sparrow, peacock, different object is there. And in the class, we have defined a different attributes as well as their behavior. So obviously the behavior is different for all these three birds. So what we can say, the same copy is creating for the parrot, in which the values are different. Similarly for the sparrow, and similarly for the peacock. Right? So this thing we have discussed in last lecture about the class and object concept. So class is a blueprint for the object. Now you can understand how the class, a bird, is a blueprint for the object, because here the parrot, sparrow, peacock having the different attributes, like the peacock having different sparrow, but what all they are using the attributes which are defined in the class. So we can say it is a blueprint for the object. It contains all the details like attributes and behavior. So in a class, there is the attributes as well as behavior. In last lecture, we have seen the example, how in a class we specify the different attributes as well as the different behavior. So here is one example, like class parrot, and here there is no, we are not writing anything, that's for the past. So simply here we have created a class. By writing this, a class is created, but actually how you can use this class by creating an instance or by writing object, right? So use a class keyword to define an empty class. So this we can say this is an empty class. There is we are not defining any attributes or the methods. So from a class we construct an instance, and from this class we construct an instance that is also called object, right? Like class is a bird and parrot is a object. So an instance is a specific object created from a particular class. So Python class in a group of attributes and methods. So what is a class? Class is a group of attributes and the method. Attributes are represented by variable that contains a data. So attributes represented by the variable. Attributes, what is attributes? Attributes is nothing but the variable, right? Earlier, we have seen in procedural oriented, we have to define attributes. We have to initialize the attributes. Here, actually, the attributes we call here as that variable is called here, that is the attribute. Similarly, in our previous concept, we have seen function. So that is function is called here, that is a method. So here you have to remember the variable is like an attribute and function is like a method. So here 99% you will find the function and method is same. There's small difference we'll discuss later. So method perform an action or task. It is similar to function. Okay, so clear? Function, method, variable, attribute. How to create a class? So in last lecture we have seen why actually I'm again revising all this thing in detail because of the object oriented programming concept, right? Which is new to you. As I told you, as I told you, here is a power supply issue. So the computer switch off now. Mm, wait for 4 to 5 minutes. I have to change my location. I will have to search the another place where I can, from where I can deliver my lecture, because I cannot share my screen. I cannot implement program on mobile phone. So wait for 2 to 3 minutes. हा इंटरनेट पण बनवून जातं ना सर. तुमचं लेक्चर होतं ना आज? मग तू डिपार्टमेंटला जातो. डिपार्टमेंटला जातो. लेक्चर चालू आहे. नमस्कार. इथे कोण व्यक्ती येते का? आणि वर खाली येणार होते ना. मोबाईल सर मोबाईल सर. इथे पायथॉन इन्स्टॉल आहे ना. अनाकोंडा इन्स्टॉल आहे ना. अच्छा. कोणत्या पिक्चर? नाही नाही, 5G मोबाईल महाग भेटेल विनाकारण ना आता. नवीन नवीन आहे ना, महाग भेटेल. त्याच्यापेक्षा 3-4 वर्ष स्वस्तात भेटेल. पंकज सर एखादा तुला पण प्रॉब्लेम देतो. हा मला तर
Okay, so whatever discussed we have this, whatever the concept we have discussed in last lecture, now we'll see all the things practically. Okay, so in last lecture we have seen the class and how we can create an instance. So today actually I am using another interpreter, that is Spider. Till today's lecture we have seen like all programs. If you are going to Anaconda, you will find it here is a Jupyter and here is a Spider. So you can use anyone, but Jupyter is good. But actually today I am using Spider. Okay. So as we have seen in last lecture, how to define a class. So class, this class is a keyword, right? Now my class object, right? This method I am creating. And in this method, simply I am printing one statement, that is so here in last lecture we have seen like this class is a keyword. This is a class name that I have given here, like my class. Here M is the first letter is capital, as we have seen in last lecture. What are the rules are there? So here the M is a capital. So the class name, the first character is a capital character. If you want to if you want to add a numbers here, yes, you can add afterward, but the things that you have to write, the first letter should be the capital letter. Here is the class keyword. C is small here. This object, what is this object? As we have seen, like Python having its own class, and we have to inherit the object class from the Python base class, right? Like in a last last to last lecture we have seen the concept of exception handling. In exception handling we have seen how the Python having an exception class and how we have derived our own class from the base Python exception class, right? Similarly, the Python having its own base class, and here we are deriving this object. As we have seen in last lecture, either you are writing these or you are not writing, no matter, this class will derive from the base class. Okay. So this thing is optional. Either if you want to write this, you can write, otherwise you escape this part, this object. Okay. Okay, in the last lecture we have seen, suppose if you want to like initialize variable, that we have seen there is a constructor, we have seen def underscore underscore init underscore underscore self, right? But here actually we are not assigning any initializing any variable directly. I'm writing here this method, that is def show self. In the last lecture, we have seen what is this self. Self, you can write anything instead of this self, but by the self, you can properly derive this statement, the purpose here. Like self point to the current object, right? Like in our previous discussion, like we have seen, like your bird is a class and there is a different objects are there, like a sparrow, peacock, different objects are there, right? So the self point to the first object, that the object which are executing, right? It points to the current instance. You can say the current instance is, for example, the uh, parrot. So it points to the parrot. The next current instance is, for example, sparrow. It points to the sparrow. So accordingly, So by the self, you can properly understand. That's why actually we used to write this self. In the last lecture, we have seen multiple rule for this. Okay, and this DEF show is what? DEF show is a method. As I told you earlier, this method is like a function. So around 99% you will find the working is the same. Okay. So here, as we have seen the self, we have points to the current object. So that's why we have to write the self, and always you have to write the first this self, and the if the other arguments are there, so that time you have to write the other argument after the self. That is a formal argument. In last lecture we have seen, right? And this simply we are printing this statement here like I am a method. What is this X? Yes, kindly acknowledge. What is this X here? What is this X here? Object of my class. Right. Good, Shubham. So this is object. X is object. Come on, everyone. Are you with me? Because only the Shubham have acknowledged for my question. Hmm? Other students, acknowledge immediately so that I came to know how many of you are active. Okay, everyone should acknowledge. Everyone, I want acknowledgement from every student. Okay, so you acknowledge here. After the lecture, I will check how many of you are active within the lecture. Okay, so this X is object, right? For this my class. So as we have seen in last lecture, with this object, this instance we have created. So by using this instance, either you can use the variable that we have initialized in the class or the different methods. Okay. So now here actually I am calling a method. That is the method is show. Similarly, if you want to call the variable also, you can call by using this object. Right. In the last lecture, we have seen this concept. Okay. So we run this program and here is the output. Okay, here is the output. So okay, I cannot zoom out this right part to view the output. So you can zoom out your screen to check the output. Okay. Can you able to see this output? Are you able to see this output? I method. Okay, zoom out the screen. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. So as here we can see simply we have called this method, that is show x dot show here, and we have printed this statement here like I am a method. Okay. So as we have seen in last lecture, like this is the optional. Even you can skip this part, still we able to run this program, right? Still your program is you are getting output, right? So automatically it inherited, no matter if either you are writing or not writing. Okay, we'll see again in detail to understand properly all the concept. Like here again, I'm a class person. Okay, so empty class, and now we'll see if you are uh, not creating an instance, but still the class create or not. So you can print like the ID, and so that you can understand the this class create or not. See here, we have printed ID for class person, and ID is this. For this class, this is the ID. So it is not the case only if only the instance will create that time, only the class create, it is not the case. Here ID of the is a class object. So this ID is the class object. Like classes are also object in Python. That is called a class object. This is called class object. Why is class object? Because as I already told you, even you can writing here like this object is what? You are inheriting from the base class, right? You are inheriting this class from the base class. So if I am not writing this, so actually this class is also object in the Python. That's why actually you are getting this ID, because it is we are inheriting from the main base class. So we are creating one class, like the same concept we have seen in exception handling. So instance object for this class, calling it like a function. So now here we can create an instance object, and it call to this class like a function. Like suppose here I am creating one instance, p1 is equal to person, and p2 is equal to person. So this p1 p2 is what? P1 p2 is instance object. Okay, these are the instance object, and this is the class name, right? Suppose if you execute here, this is not executed. So p1 p2, these two instances created for this class. Now we'll check this first instance. So type p1. See, this type p1, this object inherited from the, or this type p1 is an instance for the person. That's why you will find here underscore underscore main underscore underscore per person. So this is the instance for the class person. Similarly, if you see the type p2, again the underscore underscore name dot person. So both are the instances for the class person. Now we'll see the ID for P1 and ID for P2. So see here, ID for P1 and ID for P2. Now you observe here, both the IDs are different. Both the IDs are different. It is not the same, right? It means we have, as we have seen the concept, like the class is a bird. So this class is a bird, and you are creating uh, multiple instance. Like one is for the sparrow, one is for the peacock, one is for the crow, right? And here you will find each bird having its own flying capacity, a different size, different color. So different attributes are there, as well as different behavior, different methods are there. But you will find all these things are common, and very here we are created multiple instances, right, for these different objects, right? So here, obviously, this ID P1 and ID P2 is different. So, but we can say the same, whatever the attributes you have defined in a class, these attributes having a different value for the sparrow, these attributes having different value for the crow, these attributes having different value for the peacock, these attributes having different value. So the different ID is there. Different ID is there. Now, again, suppose here we are now writing a method like def display. So this statement we are putting here. Another method, again this himself, colon. Okay, so now we'll create an instance for this P1 for the class person. So one object we have created, it is there. Okay, P1 person, P2 person. Now we'll call the method like P1 dot display. Another method that is P2 display. So here, so P1 dot display, I'm a person. P2 dot display, I'm a person. Similarly, we can call the another method simply P1 dot delete. And similarly, the P2 dot get. So accordingly, you will find the respective output. So here you will find, like here we have written a self. Here we have written a self. But while I am calling this method by using this instance p1.display, p2.display, so you will find here I am not writing any parameter value, right? We are not passing any argument here, right? So why actually in our last lecture we have discussed, as well as in the recapitulation I have discussed, like self points to the current instance. So here actually we no need to uh, send any parameter value, but self is there which is point to the current instance. We no need to provide any parameter value for the self, right? We are getting output. Now suppose if you are putting here like a self, and like here I'm adding here like a self is here, and self is here, and suppose in display I'm sending a message like a Tom, and here for example here, like that I will see. So display takes one positional argument but two word given. So see here. Here we are using this self, but it is not the case. Directly it will consider here for the self, right? Here actually you have to write one more argument. That's why in the output actually you are getting text one positional argument, but two were given. So here we'll modify in this program like person. One more method we will add here to understand this concept, like DEF set details, and here we will define some argument like okay. So this two argument we have initialized here, like a name is John and age is 20. Just a minute, okay? Hello. हाँ सर. हो ठीक आहे चालेल सर. हो 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 सर. हो सर काही प्रॉब्लेम नाही सर. नाही 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 काही टेन्शन नाही. हो हो हो. मी तुम्हाला पाठवतो सर. आता लेक्चर चालू आहे ऑनलाईन 15-20 मिनिटात. असं आहे का? थांबा मग एक मिनिट व्हॉट्सअप करतो सर. हो ठीक. सर पेन वगैरे Dear students, wait for a minute. हाँ सर चेक करा पाठवलं. Okay, so this example will continue because time is over. You may have another lecture. This example will continue in the next lecture. We'll discuss in detail. So actually, at the beginning, I am going slow because to understand this concept is very important. I hope everyone is getting what is a class, what is object, how we can create an instance for the class, right? What is the role of self? So in detail, actually, we will discuss practically. We will understand all the small concept, okay, and then we'll see the complete object-oriented programming concept, inheritance, polymorphism, encapsulation, okay, all these concepts. Okay, dear students, now you can leave for today's lecture because the time is over for today's lecture. Thank you.